Good evening, everyone. You're watching Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill news. Well, in the first bit of news today, we have some great detective work from Civ Mill Air. This morning, when I woke up, I saw that Civ Mill Air had posted a tweet suggesting that President Trump was making a surprise trip overseas to visit the troops. He said, "Now, I'm not saying Trump is currently heading to the Middle East to visit troops, but there's been some interesting air traffic movements the last couple of days. Some I've already tweeted, and a VC-25A has been reported over the UK earlier today. Watch this space." And next, reported over the UK earlier today, call sign and unknown hex confirmed on my own receiver logs. RCH 358 VC25 USAF over Yorkshire, taken from Chapeltown, South York's Boxing Day 2018. And there is a photo of Air Force One itself. And he goes on to detail how he tracked the plane, watching it heading across the globe until eventually it ended up in the Middle East. He says, just to add to the speculation from one of the White House press pool, good morning on this fifth day of the partial government shutdown. For those interested, no, as of 5 minutes ago, there was no Marine posted outside the West Wing. So, boom, confirmed. President Trump and the First Lady traveled to Iraq late on Christmas night to visit our troops and senior military leadership to thank them for their service, their success, and their sacrifice, and to wish them a Merry Christmas. Look at that, folks. So amazing. They stuck around for the shutdown, and then they went and made a surprise visit to our guys and gals in fatigues. And these people could not be happier. Take a look at those smiling faces. You gotta love it. Oh, and then Jim Acosta has to weigh in. Of course, this was after quite a few liberal outlets had reported that President Trump was the first president in quite some time to not make a trip to the Middle East to visit the troops. But they were able to do it in secret. Now, something interesting that Joe M., Storm is Upon Us on Twitter, had seen. The plane darkened, windows closed, no lights anywhere, pitch black. So is the Air Force One just dark because they didn't want people to know? They did use this fake call sign. Or is it because there is something extra going on here? Another layer of intrigue. A lot of people on Twitter today have been saying that as this is the 10 days of darkness and President Trump is flying overseas, we could see something happening that is far beyond what is being portrayed. From Anonymous Decoder on Twitter, if everything I've learned over the years is correct, Q drops, clock, POTUS tweets, 8chan discussions, ETA is, ? I could be wrong, tomorrow. The clock lines drop 45:55 at 55 minutes, hours 11 and 5. Also lines with the 1028 post HRC arrested. If you draw a circle over the clock and the above, you get a Q. Let's take a look at this post. This is from November 1st, 2017. POTUS will be well insulated, protected on Air Force One and abroad, specific locations classified while these operations are conducted due to the nature of entrenchment. It is time to take back our country and make America great again. Let us salute and pray for the brave men and women in uniform who will undertake this assignment to bring forth peace, unity, and return power to the people. And today we had Air Force One spotted over Europe, heading over to the Middle East. All right, now we have a thread here from Slazar on Twitter. This ties in to the fact that it's 10 days of darkness. POTUS is in Air Force One, overseas. He is safe. We had the reference to the troops. We had the reference to the fact that he would be overseas. We have the lineup on the Q clock. And we have some strange postings from other people involved in this very, very strange play. So Barack Obama posted this tweet on Christmas. It's a picture from 2014, and he tried to pass it off as if it was a picture from this Christmas. He just did a little crop on it. But we can see here that it is from 2014. Okay, what else do we have? We have Hillary Clinton tweets a picture from very long ago. You can tell from the look of the picture. And it's certainly not 2018 Christmas. Then my friend AJ on Twitter had sent me this yesterday, George W. Bush's Twitter, but apparently I went onto archive.org and it looks like it was a parody account. So I couldn't find another Twitter account for George W. Bush. So we've got a silence from George W. Bush. We also have silence from JP right here. Nothing since December 19th. We've got radio silence from Comey. Nothing since December 23rd. We've got radio silence from JOB. Nothing since December 22nd. We've got nothing from Kerry and the Swift boat captains. All right. Nothing from Joe Biden. Nothing from Michelle. And here is the message from Mattis to the troops. In paragraph 5, he starts out, storm clouds loom. Chelsea Clinton tweeted at 4:29 a.m., Merry Christmas, and Donald Trump retorted back at 4:59 a.m., Merry Christmas. And don't forget that epic tweet on September 5th. And of course, remember, we had President Trump tweeting that epic meme. And how could we possibly forget Lindsey Graham's exchange with Judge Kavanaugh regarding military versus civilian trials? Completely out of context for what was happening right then. So the government is shut down. We've got all of this strange silence from people who are normally very, very vocal. And we've got that very special executive order taking effect on January 1st. What do you think, guys? Is it happening? Moving on to some news from The Hill today, we have a report from Kevin Brock. This was posted by John Solomon on Twitter, and it's titled 3 Oddities in FBI Handling of Flynn Interview. Let's get this part out of the way. Michael Flynn believes he lied to FBI agents during an interview, as well as to the vice president, and he pleaded guilty to criminal charges. He owns that. It's on him. Or so he says. But while Washington and the media fixate on that aspect of the story, the recently released 302 of his interview with the FBI, the official form that agents use to summarize certain interviews, is so odd that it only helps to perpetuate perceptions that the FBI was targeting the Trump campaign and then the Trump administration for mostly political reasons. This aspect of the story needs more attention for the FBI's sake and, more importantly, the nation's sake. Having authored hundreds of 302s and run many sensitive counterintelligence investigations and operations during my bureau career, I know an FBI oddity when one wanders by. Oddity number 1. Then Deputy Director Andrew McCabe personally contacted Flynn on the second full working day of the Trump administration and asked him to meet with FBI agents, a meeting that McCabe reportedly characterized as no big deal. That should have been Flynn's first red flag. The FBI doesn't do no big deal interviews. McCabe's request apparently came at the direction of his boss, former FBI Director James Comey, whose now transparent camera lust led to the nugget last week that he wanted to exploit his perceived and likely biased view that the Trump administration would not be sophisticated enough to spot an end run around normal protocols and White House legal counsel. Was there anything legally wrong with Comey's and McCabe's duplicitous efforts to lull Flynn into a false sense of security, gain direct solo access to him, and not warn him about lying to agents? Nope, and that's why his attorney's probe of that angle went nowhere with the court. But legal doesn't mean it was proper. McCabe dispatched Peter Strzok and another agent to do the interview. Pause a moment. Comey, McCabe, Strzok, all 3 subsequently were fired for cause. Comey's and Strzok's strong anti-Trump biases and McCabe's conflicted links to the Clinton campaign are well documented. It is fair to question their motivations for seeking out Flynn the way they did. Their actions were unprecedented for senior-most leadership of the FBI. Yes, odd. And so Flynn, who now faces criminal sentencing for lying to FBI agents, was contacted by McCabe, who not only lied to FBI agents, but did so, unlike Flynn, while under oath. McCabe remains uncharged. Words such as odd and ironic fail. Oddity number 2. The fact that a 302 was immediately generated is an oddity. A 302 normally is used only as a reporting mechanism in criminal cases when it is anticipated that the information obtained may be used in subsequent litigation and testimony. It usually is not used in counterintelligence investigations. Yet the Flynn charging documents indicate Flynn was interviewed pursuant to an open FBI counterintelligence investigation. Indeed, the one that Comey infamously and selectively made public in congressional testimony on March 20th, 2017, was subsumed by the special counsel the following May, and now is properly referred to as the Russia collusion case. Information gathered in counterintelligence investigations, to include interview results, normally are reported via an internal FBI document called an electronic communication, and not by 302, since counterintelligence investigations are classified and do not involve criminal process. It might be surmised that Strzok immediately recognized Flynn's mendacity and possible criminal exposure for lying, and so committed the interview to a 302. But this doesn't align with Comey's reported assertions to Congress that the interviewing agents did not believe Flynn intentionally lied to them. And yet we have a 302 written the same day the interview occurred. Something doesn't seem right. In addition, the original 302 is appended with an odd unredacted header, draft document deliberative material. Please understand that such a statement is not normally found on a 302. A 302 is not meant to be deliberative, i.e., subject to further discussion or interpretation. It is meant to be testimonial. When an agent writes and physically initials a 302 and enters it into the FBI's case management system, he or she indicates readiness to swear to its accuracy. Words such as draft and deliberation imply the facts may change. If that's the case, a new separate 302 should be generated. The original remains unchanged. In Flynn's case, we have two 302s submitted to the court with the same information but different dates of entry into the FBI's case management system. Odd indeed. It simply gives rise to suspicions of manipulation. Oddity number 3. The interview results reflected on the 302 seem untethered from the Russia collusion counterintelligence investigation. The only way FBI agents can legitimately interview Flynn is through an authorized FBI investigation. In this case, the Russia collusion counterintelligence case examining links between the Russian government and the Trump campaign to interfere with the 2016 presidential campaign, which never happened. But Flynn is never asked about those things. Instead, the FBI interviews appear fixated on understanding what the Trump administration might do to counter Obama administration policies, specifically sanctions imposed on Russia by former President Obama after his party lost the election, and an anti-Israel United Nations resolution that the Trump administration opposed. These are policy differences between duly elected presidential administrations, not of criminal or even counterintelligence interest. Let's be clear. It is an abuse of the FBI to leverage its considerable authority in a policy dispute between political parties, and yet it appears that is what Comey and McCabe dispatched Peter, "We will stop him," Strzok to do. The question arises, did this disgraced troika do so at the behest of the Obama administration or in furtherance of their own now exposed biases and conflicts? The FBI's line of questioning was enabled because, as the now public 302 reveals, agents possessed a monitored conversation between Flynn and then Russian ambassador Sergei Kislyak. This massively sensitive intelligence technique has been officially exposed because of the necessities of a lying to the FBI case. Somewhere a value judgment was made. Let's hope it wasn't as cavalier as it looks. The special counsel ultimately may report findings of clear, compelling indicators of legitimate counterintelligence concern. Let the chips fall where they may. But both Democrats and Republicans should have shared concerns about the possible manipulation of the FBI by the policy interests of one party over another. Congressional oversight has some work to do. The right questions need to be asked. Let's hope, for the sake of the nation and restoration of trust in the noble men and women of the FBI, overseers do their job. Wow, that's a great opinion piece, and I think it perfectly summarizes exactly what was wrong with this entire show here. They went into this attempting to find anything possible that they could use against Flynn or against Trump, or to try and thwart every effort of the new incoming administration, probably, in my opinion, at the behest of the Obama administration, and also based on the personal feelings of these individuals involved here. You can't get much more corrupt than this. And whether or not it's legal, it is certainly wrong. And I pray with all my heart that if the FBI has any future left for it, then something will be done about this, and it will be made clear that this is the kind of behavior that cannot take place. All right, next we have a tweet from the Speaker 2018. And remember, Donald Trump had tweeted, "The only problem our economy has is the Fed. They don't have a feel for the market. They don't understand necessary trade wars or strong dollars or even Democrat shutdowns over borders. The Fed is like a powerful golfer who can't score because he has no touch. He can't putt." And David Michael Rothschild replied, "Just shut the F up. Seriously, every time President Trump talks about the Fed, the market tumbles. He needs the market to stabilize to save what is left of his presidency. He is so effing stupid, he cannot even manage just shutting the F up and doing nothing." This is supposed to be a top-tier economist, okay, a member of the Rothschild family. Well, it turns out that the Dow had its biggest single-day gain in history again. Up 1,086.25 points. Wow, look at that. You can't get much more, you can't get that much more basic. The Dow took a major rebound, and it obviously has nothing to do with Trump. Let's take a look at this article from the Gateway Pundit. On Wednesday, the Dow Jones Industrial Averages had its biggest point gain ever. The rally is the biggest after Christmas point gain in history. This comes one day after President Trump took on the lunatic in charge of the Federal Reserve. And we have right here another tweet from President Trump. "We have companies, the greatest in the world, and they're doing really well. They have record kind of numbers, so I think it's a tremendous opportunity to buy. Really, a great opportunity to buy." And then the market skyrockets. Trump spoke with the U.S. military on Christmas Day and answered a few questions from the liberal media. Let's take a look at what President Trump had to say.
Well, I think they understand what's happening. They want border security. The people of this country want border security. You know, it's not a question of me. I'd rather not be doing shutdowns. I've been at the White House, and I love the White House, but I wasn't able to be with my family. I thought it would be wrong for me to be with my family. My family's in Florida, Palm Beach, and I just didn't want to go down and be there when other people are hurting.
President Trump is truly a man of the people. He knows exactly what we want. He knows exactly what has to happen. And everyone around him that is opposing his agenda are opposing the will of the American people. It's incredible. So basically, to recap, President Trump calls out the Fed. The Rothschilds get mad. President Trump tells everyone it's a great opportunity to buy because the Fed screwed up and crashed the market. And the people bring the market back in a bang-up job. Thank you so much, President Trump. And lastly, in a report from the Daily Caller, we have a follow-up on the Russian bot story from the other day that apparently was able to topple Roy Moore and stop him from gaining the seat he was running for. Liberal billionaire apologizes for funding Russian bot false flag, but questions remain unanswered. Billionaire Reid Hoffman apologized Wednesday for funding an effort to dupe Alabama voters into believing Russian bots were fueling Republican Roy Moore's failed senatorial bid. But he left crucial questions unanswered. Remember that, guys? Remember when they kept calling us Russian bots? Well, it turns out there really were Russian bots, but they weren't us. His statement left several important facts about the so-called experiment unaddressed, including a detailed accounting of everyone involved in the caper, as well as who crafted and executed the plan. The effort was the subject of a closed-door presentation in Washington, D.C. to a group of liberal technology experts, the Washington Post reported, citing anonymous sources. "I find the tactics that have been recently reported highly disturbing," Hoffman said in his statement. "For that reason, I am embarrassed by my failure to track AET, the organization I did support, more diligently as it made its own decisions to perhaps fund projects that I would reject." The Hoffman-financed group allegedly used Facebook and Twitter to undermine support for Moore and boost Democrat Doug Jones, who narrowly won the race. Hoffman referred to a group he funded, American Engagement Technologies, as being involved in the effort. He poured $750,000 into the organization, much of it going to the project, the report notes. Democratic operatives were associated with the plan, explained in an internal report leaked to the New York Times how the project sought to implant ideas into people's heads. You guys ever notice that when something bad's about to drop, the New York Times suddenly jumps up and does some reporting, trying to get ahead of that curve? Make sure that they implant this into people's minds. Oh, well, we at the New York Times, we're doing real reporting, and we're actually putting out stories. When in actuality, what they're trying to do is just get ahead of the story, because it was going to come out. We orchestrated an elaborate false flag operation that planted the idea that the Moore campaign was amplified on social media by a Russian botnet, the operatives recounted in the internal report, which was published on December 19th. The cost of the effort, Project Birmingham, totaled $100,000. The identical amount Facebook says the Russian Internet Research Agency spent trolling people on social media leading up to the 2016 presidential campaign. Boom! The entire Russian narrative crashes to the ground. It was always the liberals. This entire time, guys, it was never the Russians. It was always these liberal activists. Here's Reid Hoffman, co-founder of LinkedIn, the man who funded the operation. The scheme attracted significant media attention. Local and national media falsely suggested Russia was backing Moore's candidacy. The Montgomery Advisor was the first to cover the story using the Russian bot angle. National media outlets quickly followed suit. Roy Moore, flooded with fake Russian Twitter followers, read the headline on a 2017 New York Post story, which cited the advertiser. WAPO, for its part, focused on the fact that Moore blamed Democrats for the fake accounts, and he was right. One writer at Think Progress, Zak Paine, who covers LGBTQ issues, which his Twitter followers in 2017, Roy Moore doesn't know much about journalists, does he? Ford linked to a WAPO tweet noting Moore's allegations that Democratic operators were behind the ruse. Hoffman, reeling from former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's loss in 2016, became one of the biggest funders of efforts to elect Democrats. The LinkedIn founder spent millions of dollars on dozens of organizations, according to a statement Wednesday. Hoffman, like Jones, who barely beat Moore, supports any investigations into the matter. I proudly support aggressive campaigning, both on the ground and digitally. And that is why we funded organizations that help expand civic engagement, the Silicon Valley billionaire said, adding that the funding was made on the promise that the organization would use some of the money to combat fake news and bot armies, not create them. It is not yet known who executed the project and how many people were involved in the effort, but Hoffman's recent investments in politicking have him tied to several former officials in the Obama administration. He dumped $35 million on a campaign to create a database that would store all of the progressive community's voter data, Politico reported on December 10th. Todd Park, the former U.S. Chief Technology Officer to former President Barack Obama, is leading the campaign, and Mickey Dickerson will operate as the CTO. Dickerson is the founder of AET and was an Obama organizer in 2012. Dickerson has not yet responded to the Daily Caller News Foundation's request for comment. Well, look at that. Once again, liberal hypocrisy. Once again, liberal projection, constantly blaming us, calling out their enemies for what they themselves are guilty of. And look at him. He even looks like a communist with his Chairman Mao shirt and the red background. God. Okay, well, thanks so much for watching, guys. I do appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Share this with your friends. Tell people to come on over and watch Red Pill 78. I do appreciate the support. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in this evening, December 26, 2018. And I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Good luck, and God bless.